Hi, this is Brian with ActiveMelody.com. In this week's guitar lesson, we're going to take a look at a Delta Blues, very simple Delta Blues fingerstyle arrangement. I wanted to create something that sounded good, it was bluesy, it worked on its own, but wasn't very difficult. And this would be something for those of you that want to get started in fingerstyle, a great introductory to it. And even if you've tried it in the past and you get frustrated with it, try this lesson out. I think that you'll be able to do this. And what I'm doing that is making it a lot easier is with the bass part. So we're just doing a droning bass part. So you stay on one string at a time. We're not alternating back and forth between strings. I think that's what throws a lot of people with fingerstyle. In fact, that's why I haven't done a lot of fingerstyle lessons lately, is because I can sense that some of you are getting frustrated. So I'm going to pare this one back and make it fun, melodic, but fairly easy to play. So definitely try this out. If you've tried it in the past and you got frustrated, check this one out. So I've got this lesson split into two parts. In this video, we're going to take a look at the first half. If you'd like to watch the part 2 video, as well as access the on-screen tab viewer and download the tab PDF file, you can get all of that for this lesson at ActiveMelody.com. Just look for EP177. That's the lesson number for this lesson. So let's go ahead and get started with part 1. Alright, so this is a 12-bar blues that we're going to be doing in the key of E, and it's a 1-4-5 chord progression. Now I say chords, we're not actually going to be playing chords when we do this. There's a few little spots where I'll touch on a chord or two, but most of what I'm going to be doing is playing just a single string, playing the bass part with my thumb, and that's going to represent where the chord would be. And then I'm going to play a melody line on top of that using my ring, middle, and index finger. So that's what gives you that fingerstyle sound. And if you like this style, I know I'm calling this Delta Blues. It's not like something you would hear Robert Johnson do, but this sounds like something you might hear an artist like Mississippi John Hurt play. Very melodic, and it's really just the bass part with a melody on top of it. So with really no chords in the middle. And sometimes you don't need chords. You can just represent the chord part by just playing that droning bass. Now let me just play just the very beginning of this, and I want you to watch my thumb, what it's doing here on this open 6th string, or the E note. See how it's just playing right on the beat. 1, 2, 3, 4. And that's going to carry throughout the whole song. Even when we go to the A part, I'm just going to jump up to the 5th string. And that's how you create the rhythm part. It's just by playing it right on the beat like that. It makes it easier when you're learning this style of fingerstyle playing, instead of trying to jump all over the strings with your your bass player, your thumb. So if we're going to count this in, it would sound like this: 1, 2, 3. And you can see when I went right where the thumb starts, that's the 1 of the next measure. So it comes in right on the 1, and it's just 1, 2, 3, 4. Now let me talk through this lick that kicks us off here. What I'm doing is I'm playing in the minor pentatonic scale, pattern 2. So pattern 1 of the minor pentatonic scale for the key of E, I should have said that, would be here. And pattern 2 would be here. Now if you don't know what I mean when I say pattern 1, pattern 2, check out the blues lead course at ActiveMelody.com. I go through all 5 patterns and explain what they are. But when I play this little opening lick, now I'd play that and I hammer on here. So I start here on the 5th string, 5th fret, 1st string, and I'm using my ring finger to pluck that. And then I do this. I go to the 3rd fret and I hammer on to the 4th fret on the 1st string. Now some of you are going to say, wait a minute, that note's not in pattern 2. And you'd be right, it's not in pattern 2 of the minor pentatonic scale, but that note is in the major pentatonic scale. So you're changing it from minor to major in that one little place. And that happens there. It can also happen on the 3rd string by playing from the open 3rd string and hammering on there, which would be in the E chord, which would be an E major chord. So just remember that you have this little place that you can always kind of bring something from minor to major by adding that one little note there. And I go over this. There's a course, not a course, it's actually a lesson called Mixing the Minor and Major Pentatonic Scale. Check that out if you haven't, if you want to know more about this. I don't remember the lesson number, but if you go to the lessons page and just search for the word mixing, you'll find that lesson, and it goes into detail about in this spot in particular where those two scales overlap. Alright, so let me back up. Then we got... Now the next thing that I do is I play the second string open, which is an open B string, and then I play the open G string. So let's put that together. We have... Now look at the fingers I'm using with my right hand. I do ring finger on the first string, middle finger on the second string, index finger on the third string. Now right here we're going to go right into the 1 of the next measure. That's where our bass is going to kick in. Now two things happen there. One is I hammered on to the 1st fret 3rd string. The second thing that happened is at the same time that I do that hammer on, I hit the bass string here, this bass low note, this open 6th string with my thumb. Looks like that. So practice that. It's not too hard. It may take a few times to go through it, but that's what you're doing. You're putting those two notes together at the same time. So let's back up. We have... Alright, and that's kicking this thing off. Okay, so after I did that, I'm going to take my ring finger and come up here and grab the open 1 string, which is the high E string. And now my bass note is going to continue. We're going to always play it on the beat. You can already feel the rhythm happening. So then this lick here is really just a little intro lick that gets us right into the rhythm. Okay, now after I did that, I hit the bass note 3 times. 1, 2, 2, 3, and then I went. Now notice what my hand is doing. If you'll notice, I'm already making an E chord here, and that's just by default. Because a lot of these notes that we're going to be playing are within the E chord. That's what the the rhythm chord is here. And so it's easier in my mind to just go ahead and make the chord and then make little melodies out of the chord. That way if you do hit the wrong string, if you bump the wrong string, it'll still sound okay. So after that I went... Now look at that. I'm keeping that E chord, but I'm adding my pinky here on the 3rd fret 2nd string. So I'm hitting that and the 6th string at the same time with my thumb. And notice I push it a little bit sharp there with my pinky. And then watch this. So here's what you're going to practice for that part. Try and get it right on the beat. And there's the hammer on, and as that hammer on happens, again, we're hitting the thumb with it. Alright, let's piece those two pieces together. I'm probably going into maybe in the weeds a little bit here, but I think it's important in the beginning just to get this thing kind of going. Two, three, and then we're going to repeat. Same lick. Okay, so you can see how the beat never drops. It just stays going. Now here's another thing I haven't talked about. Notice the bass note sounds like a bass. It sounds like a bass guitar, and part of what's our big part of that is the fact that I'm palm muting. I'm using this part of my hand to rest on the strings back here so that I get a thud instead of a... It doesn't have the same feel if that's just ringing out too much. So that's why you want to get that sound. Now what's nice about this is, and it just sort of happens naturally, when you rest your hand right back here on these, you're resting it really on these bottom 3 strings. You're not resting it across the whole thing. What that does is it mutes these bottom 3 strings, which end up being your bass notes anyway, and it allows these top 3 strings to ring out. So when you hear guys like Chet Atkins doing all that stuff, the bottom notes are muted while the top notes are not, and so they can ring out. So that gives you the ability to sound like a bass player while playing a melody at the same time. And it's really just a matter of finding a way to kind of mute these bottom three strings. In the beginning, I remember having a hard time with that, and I never had anybody sit and show me how to do that, and it just took me, you know, some time of kind of adjusting my hand until I could put it right there, and it just sits on those bottom three strings so that I can get this nice little chunk sound, little muted bass sound. Now, if you've got a thumb pick, you may want to try it with that. I've just never been very good with a thumb pick, but that's where you really get that chunky sound that you would hear from, you know, Tommy Emmanuel or Chet Atkins or Merle Travis or any of those guys. They always use a thumb pick. All right, so let's back up. We have never stop. Now watch this. Now for that, what I did was I went from an E chord and walked up to an E7 chord. So I've got my E chord here in first position. Now right here I'm only playing strings 2 and 3, and I'm using my middle finger and my index finger for that. And now my pinky goes down on the 2nd fret, 2nd string, and then slides up to the 3rd fret. Now that happens while you've got the bass going. Oh, I should have mentioned that. I start that with the open 1 string. So it sounds like that. Now you put it with a bass. Sounds like that. Okay, so that's the entire E part, or the 1 chord. And then I went now I wanted to do, now that's not very Delta blues, I realized that, but I thought that sounded kind of cool, and I wanted to do something that, I don't know, I just hear a lot of that kind of stuff in Nashville, and just, it has a little bit of a, more of a melodic way to walk to the 4 chord. Actually, it starts with my bass notes on the E. Now all I'm doing is I'm going to the A chord, but I'm keeping the bass going, and I've got my index finger here on the 2nd fret, 2nd string. Then it goes down to the 1st fret. Then it goes off, so you've got the open B string. So you got. Now notice the timing. This may be the toughest part for some of you. This little part right here, because you have to keep the bass note going on the beat, but notice how this goes. It almost does like a slow triplet, and then on to the A part. So practice that. Okay, so after we got the walk down, I'm going to bar the first 4 strings here on the 2nd fret. And I'm going to start by playing string 3 with my index finger, and then I'm going to hit the bass note with my thumb here, the open 5th string. So it's those 2 at the same time, and then middle finger hits the 2nd string. So all together, that walk down, with the walk down, it sounds like this. Now I'm going to be on the A note with my thumb, because that's where the A part would happen. So now it's the same thing on the beat. That never changes. It's the same through this whole song. We're just going to be thumping the 5th string. So think about this from an improvisational standpoint. For those of you that maybe this is too slow, or you're like, yeah, I got all this, and you want to take this in a new direction, you can improvise now, if you think about it, just by hitting that A note by playing some lead stuff right out of the A minor or major pentatonic scale. And I'll leave that up to you, what you want to do if you wanted to improvise, but that's all I'm doing. I'm just hitting the A note, and I was playing some notes in the major pentatonic scale and the minor pentatonic scale. As long as you've got that A going underneath it as a reference, it'll work. Okay, now from here I went. So after we play the string 3 and 2, then I come down, still with my bar here on the 2nd fret, and I play the fourth string, slide it up, or don't slide it up, just come up here to the 4th fret 4th string, and then I come up to the 5th fret on the 4th string. So it goes like that. Now once I come up to here, what I did was, this is where I am going to play a chord. Look at the chord shape I'm making here. By the way, this is the 5th fret. I apologize that this guitar doesn't have fret markers. I should have switched guitars when I got into this, but I didn't think about it. But anyway, 5th fret here, and that's where we are. My index finger here and my middle finger are both on the 5th fret. This is on string 2, this is on string 4. And then I got my ring finger on the 6th fret right here, string 3. So what I'm playing from a chord shape perspective, that just looks like a D chord that you'd make down in first position, but you're playing it here. But when you add the 5th string in with it, that becomes an A7 chord. So remember that. That's another way you can make an A7 chord. It's a nice way to do it. So there's a song called Kind-Hearted Woman, which is a Robert Johnson song. And that whole song is based on this, taking this 7th chord shape and sliding it down. That's where that comes from. So that's when I think of this shape, I always think of Kind-Hearted Woman. Okay, so let me back up now and play everything up to this point. So here we go. From actually, we'll take it from the A part. So when I came to this, I made the chord shape and I went. So that's strings 5 and 4. You know, keep this chord shape here. There's middle finger on the 3rd string, ring finger on the 2nd string. So it goes. All right. And then I take my pinky and come up here to the 7th fret 2nd string. Take it off. So you have. So let's try that one more time. We have. Now see how the bass never drops? It's always on the beat. So even if you're trying to work this out and something doesn't sound right, just make sure, as long as that bass note is never drops the beat, it's always on the beat, the rest of it you can fudge a little bit, but that you can't. You can't compromise that. Now from here I went. So the song goes back to the E part, and I thought it would be kind of cool to go take the A note, so this is the 7th fret, we're up to the 8th fret here. This is on the 2nd string. Then we come up to the 9th fret. Again, sorry, no fret markers, but 9th fret here. And what I'm going to do is I'm going to play string 2, 3, and 4 all on the 9th fret. That's an E chord. So if you want to know what that chord is, you know how to make this chord shape, right? That's the A chord shape, right? From the Cage system. So if we were to make the E chord up here, it would look like this. So that's all I'm doing, is I'm just going, playing those individual notes out of that chord, because I know that chord is here. So now once we come up to this note, the 9th fret 2nd string, my thumb now jumps back to the 6th string. So we're going to play the E note again. So just practice that. Take any of these little parts that you struggle with and just loop them until you can get them. That's what I do when I was learning how to play this kind of stuff. Just loop that if you have to. And then the next thing I played was, isn't that kind of nice? Sliding in. All I'm playing is an E7 chord. I'm making the E7 chord using, I think of this as the C7 chord shape. If you know, I know you know how to make a C chord in first position. If you make a C chord and then you add your pinky here on the 3rd fret 4th string, that's a C7 chord. Well, you just take that chord shape and slide it up here, so that this is my index finger on the 5th fret, and that becomes an E7 chord. Nice chord, and I just slid into that. Now when I slid into that, I'm only, even though I made the whole chord, I'm actually plucking strings 3 and 4 here with my index finger and middle finger, just those middle 2 strings, and I'm sliding it from here up to here. So this is, again, is the 5th fret right here. So we're starting that on the 4th, we come up to the 5th. And once I slide to the 5th, as soon as I get into the 5th, my thumb hits right on the note with that. So it goes. Another piece you may want to loop and practice. Okay, let's back up now. We've covered quite a bit. We'll take it from that A part up to that point. So here we go. All right. Okay, now from here we're going to switch. You can tell it's we're about to come to the B part. Now what I did was I just kind of hung out there just to make this easy. And then watch this. Right there I hit with my ring finger, I hit the 2nd string, which is right in this chord. So you don't have to do anything with your left hand. There's the plug. And then we go to the B part, and for that, there we go. I'm just sliding. I take my middle finger. Let's see. My middle finger goes down first, and I start it here. This is the 7th fret, so I start it right there, and I slide it up to the 8th fret. That's on the 3rd string. And as soon as I go to the 8th fret, I go ahead and make a bar here on the 7th fret. So this is the 7th fret that I'm barring. So I go. You can see by barring that, now I've got the B string. So we're lucky when we play in the key of E that you've got your open E and your open A, that you don't have to fret anything. So that's what allows you to be able to improvise much more easily. But when we come to the B note, we have to fret it because we don't have an open, well, I guess you do have an open B up here on the 2nd string, but that's not going to work. So we want it to sound like a low note, like a bass, right? So all I'm doing is I've got the full bar there on the 7th fret. I've got my middle finger here on the 8th fret 3rd string. And then I'm going to come up here. So when I slid into place, I hit the bass note, and I plucked the 1st string with my ring finger. And then my pinky goes down on the 10th fret 2nd string. That's where this is. And then what I did there was I hit strings 2 and 3. And the whole time, the bass always happens in the same place. So it's very predictable. Okay, let's go all the way back now to the very beginning and try and piece everything together up to this point. I'll play through it slowly. Alright, so then the next thing that happens is we go to the A chord. It makes sense to you because after the B we go to the A and then back down to the E. It's a very logical format. So when I go to the A, I went to major pentatonic scale pattern 2. So pattern 1 for A would be down here, right? Well, pattern 2 would be up here. And look at how that plays off of the A major bar chord. So that just always helps you because I know that when we get to this point, we're at the A point in the song, so I can already visualize the A chord right there, and then I start thinking of my possibilities around that A chord. And I know I've got this pattern 2 of the major pentatonic scale right here, and it just makes perfect sense to fall into the licks there, and that's sort of the thought process to get you there, I guess. So what I did was I went to the 5th fret 3rd string and I slide up to the 6th fret. So this is 5th fret, we're going up to the 6th fret, and then I go to the 5th fret 2nd string. Then we're going to play the 7th fret 2nd string, and notice the thumb happened at the same time, so you're pinching both of those at the same time. We're back to the 6th fret 3rd string, and then back to the 5th fret 2nd string with the bass, and then I went. So I left this and came back down to 1st position, and then played the open B string, or the open 2nd string. There's the 2nd fret on the 2nd string with the bass note, the 5th string, and then your open 1 string, and now the bass note, or the thumb, is going to jump back down to the E. So here we go. And that's how that part sounds. That's what's nice about these open strings. It allows me to go from this position all the way back down to 1st position pretty easily, almost seamlessly. If you weren't watching me do this, you wouldn't know that I even went to 1st position. You'd think I played all those notes up here, which I could have done, but what I did was you always have to think a few steps ahead when you're playing this way, so I'm already thinking of the E chord, which is coming next. So I get down in E chord place, E chordville, and that way I've got all my E chord licks that I can easily get to down here. And that's really what happened. You can see I went from the B to the A part all the way back down to the E, and all my licks will follow those areas. Okay, let's see, from the B, now after that we hit that open 6th string because we're in the E part, and now we're going to do the little turnaround part that goes, and that's very easy to do. This is a great takeaway because you can apply this to any playing if you're in a blues jam or whatever. But I'm playing with my, I've got my my index finger and middle finger. My index finger is on the 2nd string 3rd fret, and then my middle finger is on the 3rd string 4th fret. So we've got those 2 notes. And what we're going to do is we're going to go, here's how I want you to do it. You pluck with your middle finger and index finger on strings 2 and 3, and then pluck the 1 string, or the open E string, with your ring finger. And practice it without the bass part first, so go. So it's just a straight walk down. Once we get down here, it's just an E chord, so we've got just the top part of that chord on the 1st fret here, 3rd string. So now do that with the bass part, so you go. You can see the bass part happens each time, it just follows along with it. And then we come down to the B chord, the B7 chord, the 5 chord. And all I'm doing is I'm making the chord down here, and I start by playing strings 2 and 5 at the same time. And then there's the 3rd string, back down to the bass note. So you can, let me just play through it slowly and you can hear how they all kind of, the notes fit together. It goes. So practice just doing that. You can see those happen at the same time. These do not. Just that one place, right there. Okay, and then we go into part 2, which I'm going to save for the next video. But That's a lot of material, and that should give you a lot to practice with to kind of get this style going. Let me go back, and I'm going to play through everything slowly up to that to the end of that to that B7 chord, and that should give you everything you need. I should mention that the way that this thing starts, and I didn't say that, was with a B7 chord. So I started with that chord and just strummed through it. That will be in the tablature. I just left it out. Forgot to mention that at the beginning of this video. Okay, so then I went. Okay, and then we go into the next part. Alright, I hope you've learned a lot in this, and just don't get overwhelmed with it. If any of these parts give you trouble, just remember to take them, individualize them, loop those little parts, any of them, and then you will be able to master them that way. And just look at it as a bunch of little puzzle pieces you got to master, and then you can very easily start to put the puzzle together once you can play all the little pieces on their own. Alright, I'll see you in part 2.